If you are generous, capable, and loving, but secretly exhausted, this episode is for you. Because overgiving isn't always kindness. I know, sometimes it's the survival skill that you haven't been able to retire. And today we're going to talk about what happens when you stop worrying about everyone else's comfort and come home to trusting yourself. So let's talk about this thing that hides in plain sight, shall we? It is called overgiving. It's not the one that comes from overflow or from joy. I'm talking about the one that happens right after your body says no. The kind that shows up as that pressure in your head, the tightness in your chest, or when that moment when your stomach drops, right before you say to yourself, oh, I can handle it. It's fine. I know it sounds so familiar, right? Feels so familiar. So here's what I want to say before we go any further. This is not a flaw. This is not a personality flaw. This is not a boundary problem. And it's definitely not because you don't love yourself enough. Okay? So we're not going to dive into a bunch of shame or guilt or self-blame about this. We're only going to look at what happens when we pay attention to it and how it can be going forward. Overgiving is a brilliant adaptation. It's a way that you stay connected. It's a way that you stay safe. It's a way that you learned to belong. Because if you bring value, then your mind will believe that you're safe. If you're doing something for someone else, that it's hard for them to reject you, right? So you stay safe. You stay in that place of belonging. And this happens because maybe sometime in your life, being easy, being helpful, being emotionally available, making things smoother and quieter and calmer was just easier and less painful. I know, just kind of let that land. If you are listening and saying, yep, that's me, nothing has gone wrong. Okay, I say this with so much love. You're just ready for the next layer. You're just ready to shift out of this and to evolve into an easier way. So for a lot of the women that I work with, overgiving doesn't feel optional. It feels responsible. It feels loving. It feels like being a good person. And underneath that all is often this very old equation, right? If I take care of everyone else's needs, things won't fall apart. Or if I don't disappoint anyone, I'll be okay. I'll be safe. Or if I stay ahead of everyone else's needs, then I will be safe or I won't be abandoned. And in some houses, right, you had to anticipate everybody's needs in order to stay safe. You had to pay attention to how everybody's mood was and what you were going to do to help them or soothe things or smooth things out in order for you to remain safe, for you to feel safe, for you to feel like everything was okay. So it's an adaptation from that. It is not your fault. It's not a character problem. Remember that? It's not a personality flaw. Okay? So in this way, overgiving then becomes automatic. It just becomes a way because you respond quickly, you soften your truth maybe sometimes, you notice the emotional tone of the room and you adjust. You notice everybody else's needs before they do. And it's not because you're weak, but because at some point that skill really mattered. So this isn't about blaming anybody or blaming anything, right? This is about acknowledgement. There's a cost. And this is important because when overgiving runs the show, you stop trusting yourself. I'll say that again because it's really important. When overgiving is running the show, you stop trusting yourself. You stop trusting your body. You stop trusting your timing. You stop trusting your instincts. Certainly not in the same way as you did before. Because every internal signal gets overridden with, but what about them? And over time, this will show up physically in your body. You will have that tightness in your chest I mentioned, that knot in your stomach, that drop of your stomach, that jaw clenching, head pressure, like feeling like your head could explode at some points. Maybe even that hardwired feeling that you have at night when you just can't shut your mind off. You're not being dramatic. Your body isn't being dramatic. It's asking you to pay attention. It's asking you to stop abandoning it. I know. We're just going to breathe here, okay? And we're going to just look at the difference between generosity and self-abandonment for a moment. I want to make a very important distinction here because true generosity feels clean. It doesn't require recovery. It does not create resentment. Let me just throw in a little note here. You know, all those times when you said, I can handle it. I'm going to be fine. It's fine, right? You said fine so hard that you almost bit through your lip while that resentment was slowly bubbling and causing it to ripple into other areas of your life. That's why we want to adjust this so that you can release that old feeling of resentment that's running in the background that has you questioning yourself. It has you questioning other people. Overgiving leaves a residue, right? You replay the conversation. You wonder, why in the heck did I say yes? Why am I doing this? I don't have time. I don't have the energy. I don't want to do it. You feel drained and irritated and frustrated. And maybe you tell yourself, just feel grateful, but something really feels off. Still kind of feels off, right? The off feeling is information. That's the data that we're always collecting because it's your body saying, you crossed a line. You crossed a line for me, and here's what happened. Here's the line that was crossed. I'm telling you that this doesn't feel good to me. This doesn't feel right to me. So that's when the body responds, right? When it doesn't feel good, when it feels like it's been wronged or a boundary has been crossed or a standard has been broken. That's when that physical response comes into the body. That's the data. And when we listen to the data, our body tells us so much. So here's where the big truth comes in. Trusting yourself means willing to be uncomfortable. I know it's willing to handle the discomfort in the moment instead of avoiding it by giving it more. It means a pause. And it doesn't have to be like a big dramatic boundary speech, right? You don't have to give the 40-point bullet point slide deck or whatever. It doesn't require an explanation, just a pause. And when you pause, you give your body, you give your nervous system a chance to speak. When your nervous system feels safe enough to speak up, clarity comes with it. This is really powerful just to notice in the present moment, in the moment when you want to take on something, you want to do something, because maybe they'll see you as a really good person. Maybe they'll see you as the savior that you want to be. Maybe they'll see you as the hero, right? But there isn't space. There isn't energy. And let me just acknowledge, desiring to be the savior, the hero, that's part of this overgiving thing. That's the part that exhausts you. It's the part that exhausts us when we're trying to do everything and take care of everybody's needs. A more beneficial feeling is, I want to be generous. I want to give from my heart when it's right for me, when it feels congruent, when it feels like it's good and right and natural for me, not from a place of exhaustion. So here's what it feels like to stop overgiving, okay? When we stop overgiving, and usually this doesn't happen overnight. For me, it was a period of months where I noticed when I was going to overgive, I would pull back just a little bit. And it became a practice of checking in with myself. Is it needed for me to do this thing? Is this too much? Did they ask for my help? Am I trying to create something am I trying to create safety in another way for myself that the overgiving really isn't true generosity? Okay? So here's what happens when you do that. They stop scanning the room for emotional temperature. They stop rehearsing conversations in their head. And they stop needing to explain or over-explain themselves. You already notice all this energy you're saving, right? Just by not overdoing, not overgiving, not overextending. You get to reserve energy, conserve energy. Your decision making gets easier. Relationships feel less heavy. They feel less obligatory. And that steady energy then begins to return. And here's the part that surprises most people about this. Relationships don't fall apart. In fact, the good ones, they get even stronger. The right ones the trust gets even deeper. When you stop overgiving, that's when you're telling everyone the truth, right? You're telling the truth with your body. You're paying attention to what your body is saying. This does feel good. This doesn't feel right. The truth has a really stabilizing effect. So give yourself a breath. If you can, just take a breath with me. This is that survival thing, right? It's that survival pattern that says, just keep taking care of everybody else, and then you'll have value, and then it'll be okay, and we'll stay connected, and we'll belong. And when that feeling is released, when that need is released, your relationships operate from a more genuine place. And here's this little asterisk that has to come up, right? When you stop overgiving and overdoing, you'll notice that you'll begin trusting that person a little bit more. The friend that you want to overgive and overdo, they're going to notice that you're not doing it, not consciously necessarily, but they're going to notice unconsciously that, hey, you're not offering too much. You're not offering too much support. You're not offering too much saving of them anymore. And that is a signal that you trust them. I know. It's not that you consciously didn't trust them, right? But that feeling of, I can let them be on their journey. I can let them be themselves without my interference. And I'm not going to try to move their obstacles, because our obstacles are our lessons. They're growth points. So when I don't move that obstacle for you or try to save you from it, you don't have to deal with it down the line. You just get to deal with it as it comes. So you trust yourself a little bit more, you trust them a little bit more, and that feeling continues to grow. I know, it's quite miraculous, isn't it? The resentment fades away because you're not doing more than you want to do. So more trust, less resentment, more energy, less internal conversation, less fighting yourself, more energy. I mean, seriously, how beautiful is that? Just from noticing this one area of your life. Okay, let's take another breath here. And I want you just to notice your body, notice your chest, your shoulders, your belly. And think of one place in your life where you tend to give more than feels really good. And this isn't about fixing, this isn't about judging. Just notice in your body when you imagine not overgiving in that area. Is there relief? Is there fear? Is there both? Now I want you to put your hand on your heart and you get to quietly say to yourself, I'm allowed to care without carrying everything. And just let that statement land. I'm allowed to care without carrying everything. Your body doesn't need a plan. It needs permission. So if this stirred something in you, not emotionally dramatic, not just quietly honest, pay attention to that, because that's usually how clarity arrives. The women that I work with aren't trying to become different people. They're trying to stop leaving themselves. They're trying to stop abandoning themselves. And if you're ready to explore that in a way that feels really grounded and private and deeply supportive, I've opened up a few conversation times for people to pop in and have a one-on-one conversation with me. We're talking about where you are, where you want to be, what you're circling, and whether this work is aligned for you or not. And if it's not, you'll have clarity either way. That's how I work. So give yourself a nice, easy breath. Practice noticing your patterns. Be super loving with yourself. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.